when it comes to, fat loss and trying to lose weight, the primary thing that you need to make sure is happening is a caloric deficit. And this happens when you have your body burn more calories every day than you consume. The problem a lot of people I see run into when they try to lose weight is that they try to push one of those numbers and not the other. So for example, they'll go, oh, okay, I need to burn more weight than I consume. So I'll just, go work really hard. I'll do a ton of workouts. I'll do like crazy amounts of cardio, and it sucks and they can't keep it up. And the only way that they can lose more weight and get to, a lower body weight is if they keep doing even more of that, and they have to maintain that. So then of course, if they get burned out because they're doing 2 hours of cardio every day, it's miserable. They have to stop for some reason. They gain weight, the motivation's gone, and then, they fall out and lose, all their progress that way. The other thing that I see a lot is people go, oh, I need to eat less weight than I burn. And instead what they do is they try and just eat as little as possible, have like 500 calories a day, and it's miserable because they're not eating. They feel like they don't have energy, which means that they move less, so they aren't burning as many calories. And after a while, your body as well adapts to that and kind of adjusts and goes, oh yeah, I'm just not going to burn any calories because I'm not getting any. So the main thing that I want you all to focus on is making sure that you're, keeping both a healthy level of activity and, the calories that you're consuming. And this is why we kind of want to get a benchmark in the first 1-2 weeks of having you track the calories that you consume, is to make sure that we know exactly where you're at and how we might want to tweak things for you specifically to get you to a point that's going to be easy to sustain, but also allow you to, continuously make progress. So another part of this is that I heavily recommend, not all calories are the same. If you put me in a Dairy Queen for 15 minutes, I will gain 6,000 calories just because of how much ice cream I'm going to consume, And of course, I'm not going to feel very full from that. So the other thing I definitely recommend, and this is part of why I highly recommend the high protein diet and, the recommendations that you have that you've given to you based on your own body weight, is protein is the most filling macronutrient. Macronutrients being protein, carbs, and fat. Among those, pretty much everyone I've seen that comes to me for weight loss, they're having way less protein that they should, and generally a lot more carbs or sugar than they should. And this isn't to say that carbs or sugar are bad. They absolutely have purposes and reasons why you still need them for your body. But it's just a lot easier to overeat them because, they aren't as filling, generally speaking. But that's why, if you eat a lot of protein, that makes it very easy to gain muscle and not feel sore as much after workouts, so that you're able to kind of shape your body. But it's also going to help you feel more full from the amount of calories that you should be eating, to where, if you're following the recommendations that we have inside of the grocery list, if you just only ate meals from foods that are made from things in that list for a year, you had nothing else to eat, and that was it, you would probably end up being at a pretty healthy weight, if that was all you did, of course. Now, the way we can speed that up is by making sure that we still have that daily activity to continue burning calories and, increasing a deficit beyond just what you're eating, to get to the point that you want to be at faster. Now, a lot of people take this as, oh, okay, I need to be more active, I need to do cardio. And that is somewhat true, but I think that it's important to focus on the things that will give you the biggest gain for the least amount of effort first. And while cardio is really good for burning calories, it doesn't necessarily increase how many calories you will burn, over a week. It's just for every hour of cardio you do, you're going to burn more calories. Um, so that is why, of course, for all of you, I recommend, some sort of strength workout that will help you, also build muscle to make sure that your body kind of maintains, a certain level of muscle as you're losing weight, so that it's all fat ideally. But also, if you gain muscle, muscle also burns calories, but it isn't fat. And so that's going to make it so that over time, if you do like strength workouts for a year versus cardio workouts for a year, and you only did one or the other, by the end of that, muscle that you built from like the first month is still going to be there and helping you burn more calories a year later, whereas the calories that you burned from cardio, it's not necessarily going to help you in the future to burn more calories. It's just always you have to do cardio to burn calories, but it doesn't necessarily benefit you in the future beyond other cardiovascular health benefits, like things it does for your heart to do regular cardio. Another big part of this that I think often gets ignored is that to get these high deficits, you want to make sure that your metabolism stays high. And if you just eat as few calories as you can, your metabolism crashes and it just sucks. It feels miserable, and it's very hard to maintain a high deficit. But the other thing that we can do to make sure that we get closer to this, as well as to burn calories, is daily activity. And that's why I recommend for all of you, the daily walks and other things, is that if you are consistently going through and, being active throughout the day with walking, that is going to make sure that your body knows that you're not just inactive and that it needs to maintain a certain level of, metabolism, versus if you're just kind of sitting down or lying in bed, your body will decrease the amount of calories that you're burning because there's no movement going on. And so, of course, by doing both those things, we can make sure that if you're, eating a healthy diet and you have a lot of protein, you have foods that you're eating that are very filling, it's going to be a lot easier to eat fewer calories and still feel full, still feel satisfied, and still have all the nutrients that you actually need in order to, sustain weight loss for a long period of time. And if you have the activity, it's a lot easier to increase that deficit and make sure that you're losing, fat at a reasonable pace, or increase that pace if you need to, and have a lot more wiggle room as well for the diet, where, if you go off once a week and have a birthday party or something, it's not an issue if you have cake. Because ultimately, all of this with health is meant to make your life better. And so the focus should always be, how do we, get the easiest things that we can do to increase our quality of life, to make life feel better, and just finding those and do them systematically until, we don't have any super easy things left. And that's where it's like, okay, now, maybe it makes sense to go on to some more intense things if that's a goal of yours, and if you want to speed progress up even further. In terms of mistakes that people often make with this, I think a lot of times people fall into a trap of, when they want to go on a diet or eat healthy food, they jump to, oh, I need to make sure that I get organic apples because that's more healthy. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's a lot more expensive, because those are those small optimizations that are kind of like the next step or two beyond these things that are very easy to do. And yes, it does get a lot more expensive, but as you kind of see from the Gaines grocery list, stuff like ground beef, normally not that expensive. Will depend on the country for sure, but normally it's not that expensive. Eggs, really not that expensive either, pretty cheap. And so especially as we go through this, if you cook your own food, it is generally easy to make that cheaper than what it would be if you're going out to eat, because you're not paying for someone else to prepare the food. You're just paying for the ingredients themselves, and you can get those in bulk and potentially, meal prep or something like that if that suits your situation, and making sure that that's something you want to do. But by focusing on just finding things that are healthy from a nutritional perspective and that are going to be filling, it's a lot easier to maintain a diet that's very easy to sustain, both in terms of, there's a lot of variation you can do. There's a ton of options from that list, as you've probably seen. Seafood, here's a list of 5-6 different things. Meat, here's a bunch of different options, including, all the variations of ground beef. Steak, also there. Black beans, there. As well as, some of the other life hacks sort of side things like low-fat cheese or, skim milk or things like that. If you lean towards those and don't necessarily go for the stuff that's marketed as healthy, a lot of times it ends up being fairly cheap to maintain this as a diet, which is unfortunate. A lot of people assume they just can't do. And so, of course, if you need help with this, definitely DM me and for any recommendations you feel like you would need. And as well, we can be sure that, if you have ideas that you come up with or that you enjoy, definitely send those my way as well, but we can share them around and make sure that, everyone gets better from whatever ideas we end up coming up with and having people experiment with. Because, of course, the more ideas you have, the more you can just kind of go down the list and go, okay, does this sound good to me? Does this sound good to me? Does this sound good to me? And when it comes to what you're cooking, you can just experiment with that. And, I, at this point, I prefer when I make burgers a lot more to burgers I can get pretty much anywhere else, doesn't matter what restaurant it is, because I know exactly my preferences in terms of taste, and I can always follow that and tweak things exactly how I want them. I can have the burger just how thick I want it. I can have as much cheese as I want or as little as I want. Everything like that, I can make sure that over time with practice, I kind of tweak it to my preferences and end up with something that I will always be really, really happy with. I really can't stress enough just how important it is to make sure that whatever you're doing, you can sustain it. And I think the easiest way to do that is to ensure that every change that you're trying to make in terms of your diet, in terms of your activity, in terms of your workout, is something that takes as little effort as possible to get the absolute maximum benefit from it. And if you can find these things, and of course these are the ones that I recommend to you, then it's just a matter of sustaining that over a long period of time. And as long as you can stick with your daily needs and be consistent with the things that will move you in the right direction, you'll pretty much always see yourself making progress with the diet and making progress, with your workouts, and ultimately getting closer to where you want to be in the end.